May 4th and May 6th. Two very important days we need to watch closely because the announcements that will be made on these days will be life-changing for millions of people. I have all the details and everything you need to know right here in this video. Let's get right into it. All right, so as we continue to wait for Congress and the administration to come up with any additional announcements on money, benefits, programs, checks, stimulus checks, anything else like this, we need to continue watching all of these other announcements that are coming out right now because as I've mentioned in previous videos, everything is so incredibly highly correlated that one little stumble anywhere could actually expedite the process of additional money, benefits, programs, checks, stimulus checks, or anything else along these lines. So there's going to be two very big announcements coming out on both May 4th and May 6th. We want to watch these very, very closely because like I said at the beginning of the video, these dates and the announcements that will be made on these days will be life-changing for millions and millions of people. So I do have a lot more details to talk through in this video, but really quickly before we get into that, if you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button right down below the video. There's a lot going on right now, but I'm doing all the research each and every day so that you don't need to as your one and only daily advocate, and I'm back for you a few times each and every day, boiling all this information down into these short videos so that you can stay updated with all of this relevant information as it is hitting the wire every single day. It's a busy time out there, and I want to make sure that you're staying updated and making sure that I'm helping you grab as much money, benefits, programs, and anything else we can possibly get our hands on right now. So again, thanks so much for joining me. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't done so yet, and let's get right into these updates. All right, so let's go through these in chronological order. In other words, let's start with May 4th first, and then we can get into May 6th and talk about the announcements that will be made on these 2 days and why they're going to be so incredibly important and ultimately dictate the future going forward for at least a while. All right, so let's talk about this. First off, May 4th happens to be a Wednesday. This is going to be the day that the Federal Reserve comes out and announces what they're going to be doing with interest rates going forward. Well, as of right now, we do have a little bit of a glimpse going forward into what the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, is thinking and what they're actually going to wrap up in their next FOMC meeting. By the way, FOMC stands for Free Open Market Committee. It's a committee that gets together every 6 weeks, and they determine what they're going to do with interest rates, as well as they kind of figure out what the economy is doing and who knows what else they do behind closed doors. But anyway, they're going to be meeting once again on Tuesday, the 3rd, and then again they wrap up their meeting on the 4th, which is Wednesday. And then they come out and they announce what the ultimate kind of preliminary objectives are going to be going forward as far as interest rates and what they're foreseeing with the economy. Now, why is this such a big deal? Why do we care about this? Well, here's why we care. Because the whole purpose behind the Federal Reserve right now, or we would hope so anyway, is to get this inflation under control. They have the ability, they have the tools, they have what they need to get this inflation under control. Well, we'll see if they can do it. Here's the problem. A few weeks ago, the last time they met, they raised interest rates by 0.25%, a quarter of 1 point. Now here's the thing. The whole idea behind this was to slow down inflation. It didn't do anything, and 1/4 of a point is not going to do anything. But here's what they're talking about now. Potentially a 0.5% raise, so 0.5% or 50 basis points, possibly even there's some talk about 0.75 or 0.75% interest rate hike on the 4th. That would be huge, okay? That would be pretty big. That's pretty historic for the Federal Reserve. Generally, they only raise rates at about 1/4 of a point each and every time, 25 basis points. Now, if they did a 0.5 point or 3/4, that would be pretty big historically for the Federal Reserve. So here's what's happening, though. And now, this is why this is such a big deal. So this may slow down inflation a little bit, but the problem is it's going to take multiple of these 0.5 point hikes or even 3/4 of a point hikes, multiple of these over the next several meetings that they have through the rest of this year to actually get inflation under control. Just one more little rate hike right now is not going to do a ton to inflation. It may slow it down a little bit, but they need to be a little bit more aggressive, and they're probably going to be going forward. Now, here's what it kind of comes down to. So on one hand, yes, this may actually slow down inflation. Good, right? Slow down inflation, slow these prices down a little bit. But here's the other problem. It's going to raise interest rates on essentially everything else out there. So if you have any type of debt, whether it's an auto loan or credit cards or an adjustable rate mortgage, or maybe it's maybe I said auto loan already, maybe it's a personal loan or a home equity line of credit, any of these types of loans generally have an adjustable rate. Therefore, as they raise interest rates, the Federal Reserve, all of these rates will also be moving higher. So at one hand, we may be paying less in prices when we go to the store from inflation, but on the other hand, we're going to be paying more in interest as we go forward on any type of outstanding debt right now that has an adjustable rate. So, however, I want to throw this out there really quickly as well. If you're somebody who has a fixed rate mortgage, you're fine. It's not going to do anything to that rate. That is a fixed rate. That is the whole purpose behind a fixed rate mortgage. But if you do have any adjustable type rates out there, they will be moving higher. You may have already seen this a few weeks ago as they already adjusted rates a quarter of a point. You probably saw the interest rate bump up a little bit. Well, it's likely to be bumped up again in kind of a much bigger way here in a matter of just days. So I guess it's not exactly the best solution going forward. So we can always make a dedicated video talking about this as far as what we can kind of do to get ahead of maybe some of this debt that may be out there outstanding, how we can possibly try to avoid paying more interest on all that. Of course, I can make a dedicated video about that if you'd like me to. But otherwise, it's kind of like one of these situations where we're kind of taking money from one hand and kind of putting it in the other, right? So we may be paying less for the milk and the loaf of bread and the eggs that we're buying out at the store. But at the end of the day, we may just be paying more on interest if you do have outstanding debts. At this point, I'm really hoping that you don't have any outstanding debts, or if you do, it's very minimal, or it's even a fixed rate. That's a much better situation, right? But the deal is, right now, as we've talked about so many times in previous videos, the reports are showing right now a lot of people are starting to float more balances on their credit cards simply because there's no money to go around. Therefore, they need to float more balances because they need money to make ends meet right now. And the way to do that is kind of put it on credit. So, again, we can talk about credit cards in a separate video, but my kind of whole take on credit cards is they're great to use, but at the same time, they can also be very, very dangerous at the same time because the interest rates are so incredibly high, nearly 20% for most cards across the board. That is a lot of interest, right? So anyway, that is what's going down on Wednesday. We'll see what the Federal Reserve does, and it's going to ultimately indicate what they do with interest rates going forward, and ultimately, it's going to impact virtually everybody. Of course, there's probably a small handful of people out there that this will not impact in any way, shape, or form, at least immediately, but for the most part, it will impact just about everybody because most Americans have some kind of debt, whether it's a credit card, whether it's an auto loan, whether it's an adjustable rate mortgage, maybe it's a personal loan, a home equity line of credit, anything like this. They're all adjusted according to the federal funds rate. One more thing I want to throw out there too. This will also translate into higher fixed rate mortgages as well going forward. Like I said, if you're already locked in, you're fine. It's not going to do anything to that. However, all of these rates, as in like the rates that are pegged off of mortgages, like 30-year fixed rate mortgages, stuff like this is all pegged off of bonds as well, right? So like treasury notes, stuff like this. So the point is, as interest rates continue to rise and all this going forward, that will also translate into higher fixed mortgage rates going forward as well. So just in the last 2 months alone, rates have gone up on mortgages like 2%. That's a lot. We're sitting at like 5.25% right now. That's pretty high considering like 2 months ago, we were sitting at like 3%, 3.5%. Yeah, it's gone up a lot, right? So anyway, sorry, I got a little bit carried away on that one. I didn't mean to explain it in that much detail, but sorry, sometimes I get carried away. All right, sorry. Let's move on to the next day now, May 6th. This is another key date that we've got to watch very closely. This is going to be the day that the next non-farm payrolls number is going to be released. This number is released once per month, and it's released the first Friday of the month. Well, that just so happens to be Friday, May 6th. Now, this is going to be another big day and another big announcement, because here's why. Anytime that Congress or the administration comes forward and they want to approve additional stimulus, checks, money, programs, benefits, anything like this, a lot of times they look at the employment rate, right? Where is the employment rate sitting? Is it trending higher? Is it trending lower? Are more people getting jobs? Are more people being laid off and losing their jobs? What is going on with the unemployment rate? Well, we're going to get that official reading on Friday, May 6th. So this will be the non-farm payrolls number. It is released at 8:30 a.m. East Coast time, and that number will be released. So we'll have to see if it comes in higher than analysts are expecting or lower than analysts are expecting. And again, this may indicate a little bit into what Congress may be thinking going forward, as well as what the administration and the president says, as well as far as the whole economic situation going forward. And do they foresee the potential impending recession that all these economists and analysts and Wall Street people are talking about? Or do they see butterflies, roses, and unicorns, and what else? Rainbows on the horizon, right? I guess we won't know until we wait until Friday and see what all of these talking heads come out and actually discuss. But either way, these are some big announcements that will be coming out here this next week, and well, in a matter of just a couple of days, actually. And this will kind of indicate the future going forward, because there's a lot of good reports out there, and all of this is highly, highly correlated, as I've mentioned before. So we got to watch all of this closely. And I know some of you in this community may think, I don't really care about this. Just tell us when it's arriving. Well, we got to watch all these reports here going forward, because if the Federal Reserve comes out and raises interest rates too fast, guess what happens? They collapse the economy. They collapse the stock market. Real estate market hits the floor. That's the thing, is we got to watch all this stuff closely. So I know you might be wondering, when are the checks arriving? That's all we care about. Well, we don't really know all these details until we watch the full picture. It's like a satellite image of a forest, right? You got to watch the forest. You got to watch everything. And then you can take a microscopic look by zooming way in and checking out the trees one by one and saying, ooh, that's a nice tree. That's a nice little tree right there, right? So you got to look at the whole picture from a 10,000-foot view, or actually satellites are way higher than 10,000 feet, but you kind of get what I'm saying here. You got to look at the whole picture, because ultimately the entire picture shows you what is within the major picture, and then you can zoom in and look at each individual object within the picture, whether it happens to be trees or rocks or a lake or an ocean, who knows what. My point is, you got to look at the whole picture, and that's exactly what we're doing here with all of these reports as well. So, hope that kind of makes sense. Anyway, I'll continue to watch everything closely, just like everything else going on out there right now, with all of these reports, money, benefits, programs, anything else we can possibly get our hands on. Of course, I'll be right here for you, breaking it all down and to help you out in any way that I possibly can as your one and only daily advocate. So again, thanks so much for joining me. Please make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share this video with your friends, family, social media, and go back and check out any of the other 2,400 videos right here on the channel. Thanks again. Enjoy your day, and I'll catch you again later in the next video.